Hey everyone, it's Ophi from the AstroTwins, welcoming the 2020s with a little astrological report. So, you know, everybody's so excited to be able to call the new decade the Roaring Twenties. But I'm here with a little astro news that when you enter the new decade, it might, by comparison, feel a little bit like the boring 20s. Now, I don't want to bring down the party mood here, nor do I want to stop anyone from wearing their flapper dresses or mixing up some moonshine in their bathtub. I'll be there. But this is a very different cosmic landscape than the last time the decade began with a 100 years ago. Now, if you want to know what's going to happen in the new decade completely, I'm going to start with a little plug for the AstroTwins 2020 horoscope book because it's out now and it's a new year. And if you want to know what's going to happen for your horoscope, your zodiac sign, the zodiac signs of all the people that you love, like, wish loved and liked you, spend your time around, it's all in here, mapped out day by day, month by month, as well as some big picture predictions for the whole year ahead and the entire decade. So, let's talk about those roaring or boring 20s. Now, to look at historical periods, astrologers check out what was going on with the outer planets, as they're called, the planets that are the farthest away from the sun. And generational planets that move every few years into a new zodiac sign can really shape these eras that we call, the jazz age, the internet age, the information age. That is governed largely by the movements of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus takes 84 years to come to every zodiac, to come make a full rotation through the zodiac. Neptune, 165 or so. Pluto, over 250. So major happenings going on in the 2020s that were different than the 1920s, but makes total sense when you look at these three planets, why the 1920s were filled with so much exciting decadence and debauchery. And maybe we're going to need to bring some of that back consciously. So, as the 1920s began, Uranus, the planet of revolution, rebellion, independence, and liberation, was moving into Pisces, which is the sign that rules the arts and escapism and revelry and kind of that the rights of the people or the marginalized. Now, on August 18th, 2020, the 19th Amendment was ratified in the United States, and women earned the right to vote for the first time. It was the decade of Prohibition, where people were railing against sort of the Victorian sort of fundamentalist, don't drink, don't smoke, don't have any fun. It was the jazz age, the age of amazing music and clubs and, fur coats and flapper dresses and short haircuts for women. And, frankly, it kind of looked like a lot of fun to me. Who knows what it was really like, but, some of our grandparents or great-grandparents do. But the Roaring Twenties were definitely in line with Uranus being in Pisces. Now, Neptune, which rules the arts and escapism, it's actually the ruler of Pisces, was in Leo, which is all about glamour and, performance and show business and the arts. Was it any wonder even more that there was a musical and artistic and cultural revolution going on? And then Pluto, which rules deep transformation, was in Cancer, which rules women and homes and family. So, of course, women really coming out strong and powerful, getting the right to vote, cutting their hair, shortening their hemlines, riding bikes, and, being sexually liberated. So Pluto in Cancer. Pluto is all the secrets that have been hidden. Now, a lot of people think of Pluto as a sort of shadowy, scary, destructive energy. That's not necessarily true. It does kind of, well, it can take down institutions that no longer serve our world. So we need Pluto, because without Pluto, we would not evolve as a society. We would keep stagnating and doing the same things over and over again, year after year, generation after generation. So Pluto comes into a new sign every 12 to 24 years roughly, and in that time it reshapes everything. So that was the 1920s. So we had Pisces influence of drinking and partying and escapist activities. Leo, big, bold, bad, rebellious, performative. And then Cancer, which was the time of the woman. So there you have it, the 1920s. Now, as the 2020s begin, we have a lot of planets in Capricorn, which is the opposite sign of Cancer, and is the sign that rules men or males or the male identified, however you want to say it, in 2020. And it rules the opposite of escapism. Capricorn is about structure and systems and hierarchies. So as we begin the boring 20s, I think the jury's still out, but I'm going to call them that for now. Compared to the Roaring Twenties, yes. We have Uranus, the planet of revolution, in Taurus, which is an earth sign. Taurus is associated with the arts, but unlike Pisces, which is this emotional water sign, Taurus is also governs the economy and business and sort of the practical, mundane, everyday details of our lives. So, Uranus shaking that up, bringing technology and innovation to that. Well, we have, Bitcoin prices going up or on the rise, and cryptocurrency. We have 3D printing. We have people talking about a recession and instability in the economy. We have, our everyday lives and the cost of living fluctuating. The job market, although, prosperous in the United States at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty in certain sectors and areas, especially, Taurus is associated more with sort of the blue collar and manufacturing parts of the economy as well. So, and kind of the farming, food supply. So all of those areas as we move into the 2020s are going to be up for a revolutionizing the way we eat, the way we spend, the way we shop, cashless businesses, the way we live, all changing. So I don't know if anybody else feels it. There's more of sort of a little bit of a face the music. The 1920s, Roaring Twenties, go listen to the music. Bury your head in the sand or in a bathtub full of gin and ignore the problems. That's the Pisces, the Leo, the Cancer. Just go be in your feelings and make art, which, to me as a Sagittarius sounds kind of fun. But we can no longer do that, and the planets are telling us that. There are no accidents in the stars. You were born, I believe, and born and lived through exactly the eras that your soul needs to grow and expand and thrive and learn and contribute. So as we talk about the astrology of an era, I don't want you to think about yourself as sort of a passive victim or bystander. I want you to think of yourself as a co-creator of it. How can I participate in the outcome? The sort of ironic piece of astrology, is ironic the word? We'll have an Alanis moment later, but is that, you would think that when you listen to astrology predictions that it's like, well, this is what's going to happen to me, so I'm going to just sit there and wait for the full moon or the eclipse or the retrograde to do its thing. And while there are certain energetic forces that are unleashed by planetary events, we also have free will and consciousness. The more you understand and learn astrology and prepare for the transits, as we call the moving planets, the more you can respond to them in a proactive, positive way. I hope that some of you guys watching, or all of you, will be joining us for our Global Astrology Summit that airs January 1st, 2020 online. It's called Starstruck. We sat down with 24 amazing astrologers, including Susan Miller and Annabelle Gatt, Sam Reynolds, Mecca Woods, Queer Cosmos, Rick Levine, Jessica Lanyadou, so many really great, fascinating people to talk about the decade. Nadia Shah, what do the energies mean? We talked to the Kabbalistic astrologer Rachel Schwartz. We talked about human design with Erin Claire Jones, and got amazing perspectives recorded in the series of talks about how to really powerfully go into 2020 and work with the energies there. So when I said the word proactive, I started to think about my talk with Rachel, the Kabbalistic astrologer, because that is one of the fundamental principles of Kabbalah, which is to be proactive rather than reactive. And she shared about that. And I personally think that that is a very empowering way to sort of filter astrological information. You know, not, oh my God, the sky's gonna fall, but okay, this might be my reality. It might rain today, it might snow. So what do I need to wear? What do I need to pack? What do I need to do in order to not get soaked by that? So that's what I personally love about my career as an astrologer, is that I love to help people plan and prepare for what might be coming so that they feel empowered, not victimized by life and the circumstances of life. Life is hard enough. We all need some shortcuts. So, climbing off my Sagittarius soapbox and getting back to the planets of the 2020s. So Uranus and Taurus is shifting the way we spend, eat, use our resources, and forcing us to get innovative and very tech savvy. I mean, I, for one, have never used quite so much technology in my business as I did in 2019, when Uranus really settled in for its 7-year run through Taurus. Like, all of a sudden, everything had to be automated and email marketed and social media'd up. So if you're a business owner, you may have noticed that too. Well, there's just going to be more and more of that coming our way. So anyone out there who is still proud not to be tech savvy, I've got a news flash for you. The boring 20s are your time to learn how to get really good with technology. And I'm going to encourage you, if you're really up for the challenge, to learn how to do some coding too. You know, I was checking out some JavaScript online courses with an intrigued eye. Learn how to use the tools of the trade, the tools of the decade. They're all technological, and you know, I'm not going to say anyone can learn them, but almost anyone can. It's a new language, but it's one we're going to have to learn how to speak. So, let's look at Neptune. Now, Neptune is in Pisces, so we do get a little bit of Roaring Twenties from that until 2024. We got almost, early 2025 is when Neptune goes away from Pisces completely. It's been there since 2012, really amplifying spirituality, and I think, causing things like the mystical services businesses to explode, the interest in tarot, astrology, yoga, juice, all things mystical, spiritual, to really, have a revival. Now, the last time Neptune was in Pisces was in the 1860s, when the spiritualist movement brought astrology back into people's interest after the sort of Western rational movement tried to, sort of bury the evidence that people were once interested in astrology and make everything about science and rationality. I'm hoping that the convergence in the 2020s of Uranus and Taurus and that sort of technological, practical side, and Neptune in Pisces will finally kind of bury the hatchet between this sort of East Side, West Side, Tupac, Biggie style beef between spirituality and science. They do not have to be mutually exclusive. They do not have to be enemies. They can share a bed or at least a block in the neighborhood of the 2020s. So Come on, guys. It's all, they're all tools for us to use. Science, what is science if not a series of hypotheses? So if you are a scientist who's calling yourself a skeptic about astrology, but you're really just a cynic because you're dismissing it without trying it, do your birth chart. Do your birth chart. Do a few people's birth charts. Test out your hypothesis that astrology is bullshit, and then come back and tell me, because that's how I got into it. I was a student at the University of Michigan, and somebody did my chart, and I had no way of explaining why this piece of paper was so accurate about me. So I did about 50 different friends' charts to see if there was something to it. And then I became convinced that there was. So try before you buy, but also try before you dismiss. That is what's going to get us into the 2020s, that kind of an attitude. Be skeptical, meaning you suspend judgment, try it out, and then form an opinion, okay? That's what a real skeptic is. And with Uranus and Taurus and Neptune and Pisces, that's going to help us at least, make it the, scoring 20s? I got to come up with another rhyme here. Besides boring, it's not really boring. Not if you're into learning and building and getting your hands dirty. So Pluto, now that's the interesting one. Pluto is in the exact opposite sign that it was in the 1920s, because since it takes over 200 years to go through a sign, through the whole zodiac, through all 12 signs, 100 years ago, it was halfway to where it is now. So Pluto is now in Capricorn. And when the United States was founded, Pluto was last in Capricorn. So we're having a Pluto return here in the US, which one of our starstruck speakers, Sam Reynolds, and I talk about. Very interesting to see what's coming back around. Pluto in Capricorn, the sign of men. So when Pluto was in Cancer in the Roaring Twenties, women were getting a makeover. Women's liberation was where it was at, whether it was in the jazz clubs, sexual liberation, the voting booths, it was women's time to reinvent themselves. Pluto, that like seismic kind of shake up from below the ground on up. Well, it's time for men to get a makeover in the boring 20s, in the 2020s. So with Pluto in Capricorn, we're already seeing it. Saturn has been in Capricorn since the end of 2017. Since then, we've seen everything from the Me Too movement to just a lot of conversation, a lot more dialogue about gender roles. We've seen people rise up against the patriarchy, but look, Pluto's here till 2024. We can't stop there. And I think what we're moving to, I hope what we're moving toward is a world where men and women and non-binary people and any gender you want to define yourself or not define yourself by, where there's a place for all of us there. And I believe that that's what Pluto's handiwork is. Pluto's in Capricorn from 2008 to 2024. And Capricorn rules governments and hierarchies and institutions and corporations, all things that are getting a makeover, and men. So, hey, gender and masculinity have really gotten quite a makeover in the past decade, and it will continue. Now, as we move into the 2020s, Uranus is going to go into Gemini. The last time it was in Gemini, we had the Gutenberg press. It was a time of a lot of scientific and print and book and writing innovation. We're going to have Neptune in the second half of the decade moving into Aries, which is also a very male, quote unquote, masculine yang sign, whereas Neptune is kind of the opposite energy. So there's going to be more makeovers to the masculine, feminine, yin yang. Actually, the last time Neptune was in Aries was also the Civil War in the United States. So there may be some of that happening in its own way in the 20s. And then we have Pluto and Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn will also go into Pisces later, but a lot of air energy. Pluto in Aquarius in 2024 on is gonna, it's gonna be a lot of technology innovation. We'll see how people use astrology and sort of new age tools differently. Will they be suppressed, or will they become part of the norm? So the next 5 years are very decisive, but all this air energy is pushing for technology. So not clubs, not cigarettes, not flapper dresses, but, the dark web and code and full stack developers and Ruby on Rails. And if you don't know what any of that stuff means, you're going to want to Google it as 2020 begins, because technology and nerds will be ruling the decade. But there's still fun to be had, really, away from our screens. And you can read all about it in the AstroTwins 2020 horoscope. And come on over to astrostyle.com if you want to read a free excerpt from here and learn about how to get your Starstruck ticket to hear me and Tali and 24 awesome astrologers give you the lowdown on the 2020s and everything you need to know. So Happy New Year, friends. And let's get a few roars in while we can. See you soon.